Hey YouTubians, it's Tony here from We Try and Thin. The channel likes trying thin, so you don't have to. Today's video, as you can see from the screen behind me, we've got a slightly different watch to feature on the channel than we normally feature, which is the usual run of Casios and stuff like that. Today's video, we're going to be featuring this very Citizen chronograph sports watch, which is known as the Citizen CA0540-56L. Now that's a bit of a mouthful to say every time, so what I'm going to just refer to it as Citizen in this video. Now, as is usual with the watch features or watch reviews that I do tend to show on this channel, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about the materials used on this watch, I'm going to talk about the design or the overall aesthetics of this watch, and then what I'm going to do is pop it on my wrist and show you what it's like to wear. Now when I say show you what it's like to wear, because I'm not a big fan of metal braceleted watches, I didn't really want to change the kind of how tight the bracelet is or how it fits around my strap on this video, because going back to the AE1200 Casio video that I did, which had a stainless steel strap, I managed to just damage it, and I don't really want to do it on this one because it's a lot more expensive than the Casio that I've featured, that I've linked to in the description box below. And so what I'm going to do, I've used I know it sounds a bit weird, but I'm going to use a little bit of tissue just to keep it in place, just so you can see what it looks like on the wrist. I mean, I can give you an inkling about how it feels and the hand movement and stuff like that, but I just thought I'd pre-warn you, so if it's not the review for you, then you're more than welcome to click off and go about the rest of your day, really. So I just thought I'd mention it to you. Now, just to mention, this watch is mainly available from the likes of Argos here in the UK, and the price point I've seen is around the £180 mark, so it's not the cheapest watch I've featured on the channel, to be honest. It's probably up there as one of the more expensive watches I've featured. And also, you can find them on eBay for about £100. I've seen it around that mark, but it's mainly Argos if you're looking for something brand new. I couldn't see it on Amazon or anything like that. I mean, I have linked to other Citizens on Amazon if you're interested in a Citizen watch, so just to bear that in mind. So with all that out the way, what I'm going to do is look a little bit closer at this Citizen CA0540-56L. Right, let's talk about some of the sizes and see if this is any good for your wrist. Now, first of all, let's talk about the left-hand side of the bezel to the very right-hand side, where you've got the crown just on the right. I've measured from there to there. You are looking at about 49 millimeters. Now, from the top of the watch to the very bottom, you are looking at about 51 millimeters. And just turning around the watch, just so it's on its side profile, you're looking at from the screw down case back to the mineral crystal at the front of the watch, you are looking at about 12 millimeters. In a lug width, I have measured 22 millimeters there, but I have seen it online mentioned about 20. So if you do get a watch like this and you are looking to check the strap, just measure it yourself just to make sure, but I've got it as 22, but it is mentioned online at about 20, so it's around there. Weight wise, and that's where this watch came in as a bit of a shock, you are looking at 147 grams. Yes, 147, I've got to say. And you do feel it. I mean, you feel it mainly in the case and the construction of the case. That's where the main weight of this watch is. So yeah, it's quite a heavy watch. Right, as we're talking about the weight, I might as well just mention some of the materials that this watch is made up of, which adds to that overall weight that I can't believe is 147 grams. So the case itself is a stainless steel case, and it has got a real nice quality weight to it, really nice. And what I like about it, as you can see from the side profile, you got the sides are polished, as is the bezel there, and also you've got an element of what would be the brushed stainless steel just there, interspersed with polished elements going through it. And in the instance of the strap as well, it just follows through on the strap, which again is stainless steel, and it's a really nice strap. And it's not, you know, it does jiggle a little, don't get me wrong, the strap, but it does feel nice and quality. And when I've compared it to, say, some of the more affordable watches, I'd say, which is the Casio AE1200, that does feel a little bit more built to a budget. But this one here, I've got to say, it feels really nice when you just maneuver it about, and nice and, how can I say, liquid in terms of how the strap moves about. So yeah, quality strap, I've got to say, for the money. And obviously with the clasp, what you've got is the branded Citizen clasp, and it's got a 2-button deployant there, so you just open it out like that, and it reveals the very nice polished clasp area there going on the inside. And it does have some, I believe it just has a little bit of area for micro adjustment, as with the links as well, that you can remove and mess about with and get it to your watch's sizes. But yeah, that strap, it is quality. And just looking at the rest of the case, As I mentioned, it does have a stainless steel case back, which has got a nice brush element there with the polished outer edge there, and it is a screw back case, as I've said. And you've got the bezel here as well, which is, it's just got a nice edge to it as well. It's like nice and smooth edges, and that's the kind of feeling throughout the whole of this watch. It just feels nice and smooth. There's no sharp areas, or it doesn't cut off sharp. Even just where the case is just there, it's just nice and smooth really in terms of how it all looks. And as I say, it's just a very nice looking watch. And you do have two metal pushers here as well, which activate the chronograph, pause it and resets the chronograph here, which I'll talk about more in a bit. And obviously you've got the what would be the pull out, which pulls out twice for what would be once for the date, and the second one just to adjust the time if you want there, which is nice and fluid in its action really. So you could just push it in for the date to adjust the date, and then push it in further just to close it all off. So it's got a nice crown, and I also like the little crown protector just on the side, again with the polished element to the sides and the brushed element at the front. It is a really nice looking watch, and as I say, the quality of how this watch feels is just, it's just really nice for the money. The bezel, it is fixed just to finish off on, but the materials, you can't move it about or anything, and as you can see, just you can't move. There's no kind of clicking action or anything like that. It is a fixed bezel to this watch, and overall I've got to say, yeah, I really do like the finish of the case, the strap and everything, and all the materials used within this watch. Just one other thing to mention, it is a mineral crystal that you've got on the front of this watch, and that means it's more scratch resistant than what you would get with an acrylic crystal. And I've got to say, it's nice and clear, and I would imagine, I mean, this watch was handed over to me for this review, and I'll be honest with you, the wear on this watch, I'm not sure if it's been worn or anything like that, and I'm just trying to show you in the studio lighting if there's any scratches or anything like that, and there is nothing. And don't get me wrong, mineral crystal I have featured on a few other watches, and there is the odd scratch, but in this instance, no. So while we're looking at the front of the watch, let's talk about what the dial's like and just the overall design of the dial. In my humble opinion, this Citizen is a very, very nice looking sporty chronograph, where the colour makeup of the dial is a lovely nice royal blue that you can see here, extending out to what would be the fixed bezel that I've mentioned earlier. It looks really nice in terms of how it contrasts with the stainless steel polished and brushed elements of this watch. It also has a nicely integrated pattern. So if I just zoom in just a touch here, you can see the pattern just flowing within the lighting that I've got just showing this watch off, and it just adds to the overall look of the watch. It's not like a flat royal blue. It does have some texturing to this watch, which just makes it stand out a little bit when it's on the wrist. The main hour markers are highlighted with a luminescent circular shapes, except for where it's got the 12, the 3, the 6 and the 9 o'clock markers. And while we're at it, I might as well just show you what the lume looks like on the hour markers, and to the lesser extent to the hands as well. And as you can see, it's got a nice bluey teal look. I mean, it doesn't last for ages. You probably get a good hour, maybe an hour and a half out of the lume, but it does look nice when it is being highlighted in darkness and semi-darkness. So it is a nice lume effect to this watch. It's not like a green, it's just a nice teal colour really. I like the white indices of the dial on the inner circular part of the dial. It just looks really nice, and it just complements that. It gives that watch a bit of a sporty feel, which is compounded by the fact that you do have a chronograph timer on this watch. So let's look a little bit closer at what would be the sub dials. So you've got 3 sub dials here, or 3 grey backgrounded sub dials, which again have a nice circular texture into them, which you might not notice until you do look at the watch closer up. It's just a nice added feature of this watch. So what you got, the sub dial at the top is the 60-minute elapsed time counter. To some people, the markers might be a bit too small to distinguish a very accurate timing, but if you want to get just a gist of the elapsed time, then yeah, it does work really well. And I'll just kick the chronograph off so you can just see how it works. And as you can see, you've got that red second hand ticking away, just giving you indication of elapsed time, and you can pause it and resume it as well, so it is handy. And if you just want to just reset it, you just press the bottom right hand pusher there, and it just resets back to 0. But again, you know, it does go up to 60 minutes in terms of the sub dial just there. At the bottom you've got the second counter there for the main time, which is just indicated, but obviously just by, again, you've got that single white sub-dial hand, and also you've got the 24-hour clock indicator just there, where you've got the red highlighted arrow there just indicating which part of the 24-hour clock that this time is being shown. And then overall, just keeping it all together, you've got the two hands there, which is the minute hand and the second hand, which is a polished, I believe it's the polished stainless steel. Let me just stainless steel with a white paint, and obviously you've got the lume there as well, just to complement the overall look of the watch. And then finally, what you've got is what would be an data complication on the right, which I quite like the way it's just inset slightly to what would be the 3 o'clock position. My only thought is it just seems, no, I don't know if it's the way that the light's bouncing off the 3 o'clock position. It just seems a little bit towards the bottom of the actual marker, but that might be just my eyes. Overall, I really do like the look of this Citizen, and I'm sure that there are people out there that prefer a little less going on with their watch style, but I think that this is a nice balance between what's going on in terms of how it looks, plus the nice sporty edge to it, which doesn't shout out that it's sporty, but it's just got that sporty edge element to the watch. Now, before I pop this watch on my wrist, what I might as well talk about or highlight is a couple of the features on this watch. Now, first of all, this watch is an eco drive watch. Now, what that means is it uses solar energy to replenish the battery in this watch, so it negates the need for changing batteries in theory, really. And I've tested that out. I mean, this watch was stuck in a watch box for quite a long time before I got hold of it, and I popped it in the sun for a couple of hours, and this watch just sprang to life as soon as it received any form of light. It was really nice to see just the watch coming to life in terms of the second sub-dial at the bottom just starting to move around. As I mentioned, it is a chronograph as well, which will count up to 60 minutes in terms of elapsed time, and it does that for every second. And the movement that is used to power this watch is a Japanese quartz movement, which means it should be accurate when featuring the correct time. And finally, I probably mentioned this earlier when talking about the screw back, this watch is water resistance up to what would be 100 meters or 10 bar, which makes it a very versatile watch to wear on a daily basis. So what I'm going to do, now I've got all of that out of the way, I'm going to pop this on my wrist and say it's like, or what it looks like on my wrist. So here it is on my 6.5 inch wrist, and I'm going to say it's a bit of a looker, isn't it really? The blue really does stand out, and that background to that dial, the texturing just adds to the overall look of the watch. And I do love the way that the handset just stands out. Without the second hand, I know it's red for the chronograph, but it just blends into the overall look of the watch, so it just doesn't distract from just being able to read the time, and nor does the grey sub dials. When it's on the wrist, you do see that they're there, but for just telling the time quickly, you can just easily do so with that handset just standing out in the white, well, like in a very bright colour, as with the hour markers that you can see with the lume. And I've got to say, it wears so well on the wrist. I mean, I know I'm going to show you just so you can see the little bit of kitchen roll, and I know a lot of watch reviewers will be rolling their eyes at what I'm saying or what I'm doing in terms of this watch, but I really don't want to destroy this bracelet, and nor do I want to pop a different strap on there or go to the trouble of adjusting the bracelet, because I'm not sure how many times I'd wear this watch with a metal bracelet. But yeah, I'm sure I'll get a lot of grief in the comments saying I should change the strap, and I probably will do eventually one day, but for this review I just thought I'd show it as it is in terms of how or what you would get with the watch, and if it is the watch for you. So overall, I really do like the look of this watch. You could probably wear it with a lot of different occasions in terms of formal attire, wearing suits, going out to formal dinners, with work people and stuff like that, or meetings as well, as much as you could probably wear it going to sports events or going out with your friends and family for a night out. So this watch, it's a very versatile watch. The other thing to mention, hand inhibition, just a little bit there, but that's probably the way I've got this watch on my wrist. But overall, it just feels nice, and I've got to say, it didn't nip any hairs on my wrist when putting it on, and that's normally a good indicator to me, because when I put any sort of metal braceleted watches on my wrist that do fit my wrist, they do nip the odd hair, and this one, I know it's a little bit loose on my wrist, but it hasn't nipped any hairs, which is a good sign really. But overall, I love the look of this watch. I think it works well with a metal bracelet, even though it's obviously not a thing for me, but I think it is definitely on the wrist a watch you should consider. So what's my overall thoughts on this watch? Now, I really do like the look of this watch. It's a very nice sports type chronograph. I love the way it looks. I love the colouring. I will say I do like the metal bracelet, even though it's something I don't enjoy wearing, but I think the metal bracelet does work well with the rest of the watch, you know, with the overall aesthetic. And I do think that if I was going to put another strap on it, I do think it probably would not ruin the look of it, but it just wouldn't probably look as aesthetically pleasing as it does with a metal strap. I mean, it is designed to feature on this bracelet, so yeah, it is a good looking watch. I've got to say, it's a nice quality feeling watch. It does feel quite nice and not heavy, well, heavy in the hand, especially the case and the movement within the case. It feels nice and, you know, nice and sturdy, quality type of watch really. Now, not a watch for me, not in terms of how it looks, but just with the bracelet. And as I mentioned just prior, you know, I didn't really want to put a strap on it because I do think it may take away from the overall look of the strap. But again, it just depends on the strap really. But because I'm not saying it's not 100% a watch for me, it doesn't mean it's not a watch for you. There is such a lot of good things about this watch that I do like. I love the way the clasp comes out like that. You've got the 2-button deployant there. And I would imagine once you get this bracelet configured to your wrist, then I would imagine this is just a very comfortable watch to wear. Got a nice feeling of quality about it, and just something that you will enjoy for a very long time. But for me, what I love about this watch is that it has opened my eyes to this Citizen brand, and it's something I am going to look forward to looking more into later on down the line, because there is some other Citizen watches that I'm got my eye on, and especially I think there's one in August for about £100, which is something I'm definitely looking at maybe purchasing or getting hold of for the channel later on down the line. And it's a simplified watch and it looks great, so it's definitely something I'm looking at, and it has definitely opened my eyes to Citizen. But if you are in the market for something like this, then don't brush it aside. Definitely consider this Citizen CA0540-56L, because it's got a lot going for it, especially with that nice little textured dial in the background as well. Very nice. So it gets a thumbs up for me in terms of something you should consider. So I hope this video was of some use to you, and if it was, then please click on that like button. Always helps the channel. If you want to see more videos from the We Try Anything channel, then please click on the subscription button below. And thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.